about that. Are you comfortable with the country potentially dipping into a recession for a period of time if you are able to achieve your long-term goals?
Well, you say some people on Wall Street say, well, I tell you something else. Some people on Wall Street say that we're going to have the greatest economy in history. Why don't you talk about them? Because some people on Wall Street say this is the greatest thing that ever happened.
Well, that's what I'm getting at. That's what I'm getting at, though. It's the same question.
Yeah, there are many people on Wall Street say this is going to be the greatest windfall ever happened.
And that's my question,
Remember
the
this.
long term.
Yeah.
Is it okay in the short term to have a recession?
This. Look, everything's okay. What we are, I said, this is a transition period. I think we're going to do fantastic.
Oh, nothing, just the self-proclaimed savior of the economy admitting that he is, quote, okay with a recession, the same economic disaster that would cost millions of people their jobs, their homes, and their life savings because something, lower cost on day one. Got it. That was NBC's Kristen Welker asking Trump a simple question. Is he comfortable with the country potentially dipping into a recession in service of some broader economic vision? And it's a perfectly reasonable question given that we are already seeing GDP contract and markets engage in turmoil as a direct result of his tariff policies. But watch Trump's response. He immediately deflects, claiming some people on Wall Street say we're going to have the greatest economy in history. Some people? Who are these elusive economic experts predicting an economic golden age amid negative GDP growth? And this is classic Donald Trump. Vague references to unnamed supporters rather than engaging with economic reality. Or, well, any reality. Welker, to her credit, doesn't let him off the hook. She presses him again, asking, over the long term, is it okay to have a recession? And here's Trump's answer.
Yeah, everything's okay. What we are, I said, this is a transition period. I think we're going to do fantastic.
See? Everything is okay, which I suppose will be news for the millions of Americans whose 401ks have already lost 10 to 15% of their value since Trump took office, for the businesses facing supply chain turmoil from his erratic tariff policies, for the consumers paying the equivalent of a $1,300 per household tax increase because of those same tariffs. Pretty rich coming from a guy who outright admitted that he won the 2024 election because of high costs, now deciding that, because he no longer needs your votes, he can finally tell the truth about just how much he actually cares about lowering your costs. Trump then says this is a transition period, but a transition to what? Exactly. From economic growth to recession? From stability to chaos? From prosperity to hardship? This isn't a transition. It is economic sabotage. And Trump just admitted that he is perfectly fine with it. Remember, Trump inherited the strongest economy in the world, a record high stock market, the lowest unemployment rate in half a century, and he threw it all away because, he wanted to annex Canada? Was it worth it? The arrogance and disconnect from reality here is staggering. Again, Trump campaigned on the promise that he would lower costs on day one. Well, it's been over 100 days and costs have only gone up. The S&P 500 is down over 7% since Inauguration Day. GDP contracted in the first quarter. Consumer confidence has fallen for 5 straight months. This isn't a transition. It is a downturn. And Trump just said that he's comfortable with it getting worse. And frankly, it will get worse because the Q1 negative growth was before the full effect of the tariffs even hit. Just wait until Q2 when trade slows down to a standstill. We're going to look back at a 0.3% contraction and wish things were still this good. But it gets even more absurd. After admitting to a recession being okay, Trump immediately pivots to saying, I think we're going to do fantastically. This is the economic equivalent of saying the surgery was a complete failure, but the patient is doing great. It is just abject nonsense, and it would be laughable if it wasn't so dangerous. Think about what Trump is really saying here. He's saying that your economic pain is just collateral damage in service of his grand vision. He's saying that your family's financial security, your retirement savings, your ability to pay your bills, all of that is expendable in pursuit of his agenda. He believes everything's okay with that trade-off. What this is a fundamental betrayal of the American people. The president's job is to work for us, not the other way around. We don't exist here to suffer through economic hardship so that Trump can pursue his vendetta against trading partners. We don't exist to sacrifice our financial well-being so that Trump can make headlines with his tariff wars, but that is exactly what he's asking us to do when he says that a recession is okay. What's even more striking is that Trump actually seems surprised by the question. Welker asks if he's comfortable with the recession, and his response betrays a fundamental misunderstanding of what presidential leadership actually means. Anyone who cares about the American people would say, no, a recession is never acceptable, and I will adjust my policies to prevent one from happening in the future. But instead, because it's Donald Trump, he essentially says, yeah, whatever, it's all good. Why? Because he views any change in strategy as a capitulation, as weakness, and he can never look weak. And so instead, we all just get to suffer the consequences because after all, the most important thing is that we protect dear leaders' fragile ego. And let's be crystal clear about something. Recessions aren't just abstract economic concepts. They are human suffering on a massive scale. When a recession hits, people lose jobs, they lose homes, they delay medical care, they can't afford education, small businesses close, dreams are shattered or destroyed entirely. There is nothing okay about that. But Trump's casual dismissal of these concerns shouldn't surprise anyone. This is the same man who said about COVID, it is what it is, as Americans were dying by the thousands. The same guy who suggested that people inject bleach to cure a pandemic. The same guy who abandoned our Kurdish allies with a tweet. Callous indifference to suffering is quite literally Trump's brand. This exchange also perfectly encapsulates Trump's approach to governance. Make grand, sweeping promises, implement chaotic, poorly conceived policies, dismiss or deny any negative consequences, and then claim victory regardless of the actual results. It's not leadership, it is a con job. And let's be clear, whether they'll admit it or not, even Trump's own cabinet and the broader GOP know full well the disaster that Trump is ushering in. Even Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent has reportedly told investors that the trade war with China is unsustainable, and he's right. The International Monetary Fund has projected that the U.S. economy will slow down by an entire percentage point this year, and the Penn-Wharton budget model projects that Trump's tariffs will reduce GDP by about 8% and wages by 7% over time. These aren't partisan attacks, they are economic realities that Trump simply refuses to acknowledge. So the next time Trump stands at a podium and claims to be fighting for the regular working class man, remember this moment. Remember that when directly asked if he'd be comfortable with a recession, his answer was, yeah, everything is okay. Remember that he views your economic hardship as an acceptable transition. And remember that no matter how bad things get, he'll still claim that we're doing fantastically, because it's not about your reality, it's about his. Before you go, if you enjoyed this content and you want to see more and support independent media, please subscribe to this channel. The subscribe button will be right here on the screen. But second, the reality is that we are now in a political environment where this administration can lean on any of the social media platforms to suppress certain voices if they don't like critical coverage. That means my longevity here is in the hands of a few tech billionaires who are already making it clear that they are willing to cater to this administration. To that end, signing up for my newsletter is a way for me to reach you directly if that ever becomes necessary. I'll put the link right here on the screen as well, so please sign up. It's free, but there's also an option to do a paid subscription if you'd like to support me and my team. I really appreciate it. Thanks so much for watching.